Picking a game engine is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make as a game developer. Also, it's one of the easiest decisions in your journey. In this video, we'll go through simple ways to get you through that initial first step. You probably already figured out that there are so many choices to pick from, but pretty much all of the game engines have the capability to make your game idea in one way or another. Unreal Engine, for example, can make 2D and 3D games. Same way with Unity and Godot. Even GameMaker can make 3D games. What limiting you is some knowledge and a little bit of imagination. But it's always a good idea to lean into what the engine is good for. For instance, if you're making a 3D game, it makes sense to use an engine that natively supports 3D and have good games in the market like Unreal and Unity. But if you want to create 2D games, going with Unreal can be a little bit of an overkill. One thing most people overlook is asking this one important question. Which engine do you think you will enjoy working with month after month? And is it a good idea to switch engines when you're starting out? Many people don't know that I actually started Duck Norris Tales in Unreal Engine. I was still in the experimenting phase, drafting ideas. One thing I knew for sure that it was going to be a shooter, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be a boomer shooter or a side scroller. So to help make that decision, I began testing in Unreal Engine. My reasoning is if I didn't want to create a 3D game, I could switch to a 2.5D if I wanted to. But when I started working with Unreal, the systems and workflow just didn't click with me. The blueprint system is cool, but I wanted to lean more towards coding. And also, Unreal was running my PC very hot, so I knew it was not the right engine for me at the time being. So this experiment took 2 months where I started to have an idea of what the game I was creating was going to look like. And I realized that I didn't really want to lean into 3D game, and it was most definitely going to be a 2D pixel art. And this made the next transition a lot easier. So I took up Unity and I liked it a lot, and actually coded enough system to get the game going, even had a boss fight. But then, well, the news about Unity runtime fee came to light and I had to make a big decision. Since I was still early in development, which is like close to 3 months in, I had to either keep working through or throw away those 3 months worth of code. And honestly, this was a very hard decision for me because the news hit me harder than I thought. I felt demoralized, and every time I launched a project, it just didn't feel good. And I know that this news created a huge uproar in the community, and many people started to adopt Godot. At that time, I took 1 month off to try and just come up with a plan and know what I was going to do next. Since I was leaning more towards a pixel art game, Godot felt like a really good choice. However, I've always wanted to try Game Maker Studio. Like some of my favorite games were made by it, so I figured why not explore it for Duck Norris Tales. And after a week of just playing around with GameMaker, I found myself coding so quickly that in 1 week I was caught up with all of the work I have done with Unity. Simply put, I was hooked, and for some reason, GameMaker made coding so much fun and easier for me. And the best part that 2D games just run very optimized on GameMaker, so I decided to keep going with it. And I just celebrated my 1 year anniversary, and you can find the video over here. Now, this whole experience took 6 months of development time, which is pretty long. So I made the list that if I followed back then, I would have had 6 extra months of development time. And here's what would have really helped me back then: understanding the project scope. By the time I got GameMaker, I already have established my project scope and had a very modest game design document. It put everything in perspective to know what is the expectations from the game. Having that ready will weed out all of the doubts and help you focus on what the game is and what you're trying to make. The second thing is the learning curve. And this is a tough one because you really won't know unless you try. But you can make an educated guess on how hard it could be just by trying to make like simple game jams or follow a simple tutorial to start. Doing that will give you a feel on how the engine works, and it's a great way to get exposed to the system slowly. Third one is the community support, and that feeds off of the last point. Finding established communities will help you vibe out the engine. Also, checking out the documentation, which is a really great way to understand the functions and how the system works. So, seeking out communities will not only help understand the engine, but you also make friends along the way that are going through the same journey. So, one way to discover communities is obviously by just going to YouTube and joining Discord servers. There are so many videos that cover game design, and from there you can link to other Discord servers and mingle with other people. Next one is cost. Luckily, most engines are free until you make your first sale. After that, every platform have different ways to monetize. And I suggest you do your due diligence and look up for all of that because it gets convoluted because it changes over time. The next one is performance and optimization. And one thing to think about it is just that how would you imagine your game look and feel will be? So think of how you want your game to look like. Look at other games that have been made with the engine you're considering. For example, you don't want to make Skyrim in Game Maker. There's no case study for that, so stick with what works. And lastly is the asset store and integration. And this is a huge one because I know a lot of people that really rely on third-party assets and integrations. So if this is an important workflow for you, then Unity and Unreal have a robust asset store that pretty much cover all bases. But if you don't really rely on it, then you have a lot of other options to pick from. So by looking at all of that, for me, all of the games that I liked and I wanted to mimic were created by GameMaker. So part of me is very happy that I did explore that option and also gave me a perspective on what will be my next title be. So now that I use Unreal and Unity, if I wanted to make a boomer shooter in the future, I might just stick with Unity or maybe even go with Unreal if I wanted to do something that's a little bit more high poly. So I do suggest that everyone explore and test out different game engines because that's one way to grow and become a better game designer. Just understanding as many tools as you can is one of the best things you'll ever do in your career.
Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far and you're interested in optimizing things and becoming better, I've created a new Discord server for like-minded people who wants to take this journey to the next level, and you can find it in the links below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and a comment. It will really help me with the algorithm and help the channel grow. If you enjoyed this video, you'll enjoy this video as well. Thank you so much, and remember, just take it one day at a time, and I'll see you in the next video.